Hey, what's up guys, it's Bakes here and thank you for joining me for today's video, which is my top 10 horror movies that I reviewed in my random horror review series for 2023. I did the same video at the end of 2022, recapping my favorite horror movies I reviewed for that year, and now I'm doing the same, as I said, for 2023. Now, I quickly wanted to disclose before we get into this list, and I really do mean quickly because these top 10 videos always take way longer than what I imagine them taking. But this isn't a list of my 10 highest rated movies. If you've seen my random horror review series before or caught a couple of episodes, you guys would know at the end of every video I rate these movies out of 10. This isn't a list of my 10 highest rated, they're just 10 that really stuck out to me when I was looking back over the list of movies that I reviewed. Just 10 that I felt like talking about again and that stuck with me. Some of them in this list, I'll actually have them higher than other ones, even though I scored them lower and everything. As I said, it's just purely off the top of my head, 10 that stuck out to me, so I wanted to put them in this list. Of course, if you want to hear deeper details of what I think about these movies, of course, as you have probably put together, I've done full-length reviews of these movies through the past year, so you can go check them out. But without delaying any longer, let's get into this list, my top 10 horror movies that I reviewed for my random horror review series in 2023. So starting off my list, coming in at my number 10 is a film called House. I said in my review for this movie, it's a film I've surprisingly seen a lot of times, even though it doesn't really feel like it. And I'd say this movie is somewhat underrated, not to the point where it's like no one has ever heard of this movie before or never been seen before, but when you bring up 80s horror films, it's not like this is one that gets brought up in conversation a lot. This movie is about a writer who essentially lives in this haunted house, and the monsters and ghouls and creatures and ghosts and everything all have these really cool practical designs that sort of lean on the cheesier side. They sort of have this rubber suit look about them, but I think that just adds to the charm and the fun. And I think that's the main thing to highlight here, the fun, because that's what this movie is. There's a lot of humor in it that I feel like also works. It's got this fantasy element that I also feel like works in the movie's favour. This movie is a good time. I had such a great time revisiting this film for the review I did that I wanted to check out some of the sequels. I'd never seen them before, and I found a copy of House 2, and man, that movie was really fucking bad. But if you want to go back to an 80s film that maybe you haven't checked out before, check out House. It's a pretty fun time. Coming in at my number 9, I was talking about how House was underrated. This is another really underrated one, but this time a more modern film. This movie's called Relic. I think it came out in 2020, just off the top of my head, somewhere around that time. It's an Australian film. If you're a fan of a movie like The Babadook, and I'm not just saying that because they're both Australian, they've both got very similar vibes, this movie would be right up your alley. It's about 3 generations of this family, grandmother, mother, and granddaughter. And the grandmother lives off on her own, and the other 2 go in and check on her, see if she's alright, because she's sort of at that age where she's, losing it a little bit. And it turns into like this psychological horror thriller where you're not 100% sure what's going on, but slowly starts to unravel what's happening. And I really like this movie, and I feel like it sort of flew under the radar. I don't hear many people talk about it, but I remember when I did my review for this, a few people in the comments, said, oh, we're really happy that I'm actually finding a video of people talking about it, and I'm happy there are other people out there who really like this movie too. So coming in at my number 9 is Relic. Coming in at my number 8 is a movie that I actually reviewed not too long ago. It's Phil Tippett's Mad God from 2021. This is a movie, if you don't know, is 100% stop motion animation, and just for that reason alone it's worth checking out. I said in my review for this movie, and going back for the review, I think it was like my 3rd or 4th time seeing this movie. Every time I had seen it beforehand, and including that time, I didn't in full depth understand the story. Like, I sort of knew little bits and pieces that I'd picked up along the way, but I never knew the full extent of the story, and I sort of think that speaks volumes to how entertaining this movie is, because not knowing the story but still being engaged, I think that's pretty cool. As I said, this movie's just worth checking out because of the stop motion animation. This movie has got so many different things to be looking at. It's pure eye candy, but maybe not in the way you think, because there's actually a lot of disturbing and gross imagery in this movie. I've heard a lot of people say watching this film makes them feel sick. But I've always been entertained by this movie, and as I said, putting this list together, I wanted to pick movies that stood out to me and, really stuck with me, and Mad God is definitely up there. So my number 8 is Mad God. Coming in at my number 7 is a movie that I reviewed earlier on in the year, but still stuck with me. It's always been a film that I've really enjoyed, and that is Eli Roth's Cabin Fever. Almost blanked on the title of the movie there, but I've always enjoyed this movie. I've seen it a handful of times now. Just really cool body horror, some really gross stuff as well, just like Mad God. There's also a lot of humor in this movie that I feel like works. I actually heard a lot of people sort of bring up the remake lately. I don't know why, but sort of talking about that. But this is definitely the way to go. Always a film that I've really enjoyed and never had an issue watching this one back. So coming in at my number 7 is Cabin Fever. Coming in at my number 6 is the movie Smile. I feel like I've spoken about this movie a lot recently. I've said before, I really expected this movie to be trash when it came out and to not really enjoy it. But not only was this movie not trash, but I thought it was genuinely great. Like, I really enjoyed this movie. But where I want to highlight in particular, talking about it today, is this is a movie that also genuinely scared me. Everyone in the horror community, I'm sure we're used to it. The more horror movies you watch, through your years, you sort of get desensitized to it. Or movies still sometimes scare people, but they're just too scared to look like a pussy to admit it. But I'm going to wholeheartedly say this movie scared the shit out of me the first time I saw it. And re-watching it for my review, it also did the same thing there. And I chose the perfect person to re-watch this movie with, my brother. He hates movies like this, particularly ones with jump scares and everything. And this movie's got that, but it's not your typical jump fest, movie either. I feel like it's genuinely got a good story as well. I really enjoyed this movie, and as I said, I'm picking movies that sort of stood out to me, and one that still gets to you with its scares and all that sort of stuff. It's definitely earned a spot on this list. So coming in at my number 6 is Smile. Alright, moving on to my number 5. One that just missed out on my top 10 favourite horror movies of 2022, and looking back, it definitely could have worked its way in there, especially after rewatching it for the review. My number 5 is Bones and All. Not your typical horror movie. It's got your coming of age elements and on the road, cross country and romance. So it's not your straight up horror, but all of those sort of subgenres just work. This movie's quite long, so it's not one that I can see myself just chucking on every other weekend. It hasn't got that quite rewatchable factor, but as I said, just really worked its way on me, and definitely, as I said, looking back, could have squeezed its way into that top 10, but rewatching this film for the review I did, really enjoyed it. If you sort of put this movie off because, it just looked a little bit too, cheesy for you with its love angles and, this coming of age stuff, and, you want just pure horror, definitely still check this one out because it's got some creepy moments too. So coming in at my number 5 is Bones and All. Coming in at my number 4 is another movie from the year 2022, same as my previously mentioned Bones and All, but this is one that I definitely heard more people speaking about, and I guess it's not really a hidden gem or anything, but here I have The Black Phone. When I first saw this movie in cinemas, I really enjoyed it. Like, it did blow me away. I thought the movie was really fucking cool, but re-watching it for my review, it somehow went up another level, which I wasn't sure there was any more room to go up, but yeah, I really fucking enjoyed it. I think, first of all, just a really simple story, but it fucking works. Like, it's just beautifully executed. The movie flies by as well. It's 99 minutes, but it's almost like you blink and it's over. It just has a great pace to it as well. A lot of people highlight Ethan Hawke as the villain in this movie, the grabber, and don't get me wrong, he is great. But I said in my review for this movie, the unsung hero is the child actor Mason Thames. I hope I pronounced his last name right, but he is like one of the best child actors or child performances that I've seen in a long time. He is fucking great in this movie. I just think this movie as a whole is really something you should check out if you haven't yet, but here I have at my number 4, The Black Phone. Coming in at my number 3, everyone knows from my random horror reviews, I love pulling out one of my Masters of Horror sets, and the episode I decided to go with here is Dario Argento's Jennifer. I'm sorry I don't have a picture here, it's that one there. It's actually one of my more popular random horror reviews that I've posted so far. I've always loved Jennifer as an episode. It's always been one in like my top like 5 or 3, somewhere around that range. But I really think after rewatching it for my latest review of it, like it could be my favorite Masters of Horror episode now. It is just so fucking good. If anyone has never seen the Masters of Horror before, I feel like this is like the quintessential episode. It's very popular among fans of the show. I feel like no one dislikes this episode. It's just so fucking good. It's basically about this police officer who saves this girl from being killed, and it turns out the girl is like a monster, but she's like sort of got this hypnotic effect on men to like have them like attracted to her. Like, it's so hard to explain, but the movie is just so fucking good. If you haven't seen Dario Argento's Jennifer, check it out. I had a blast revisiting it. It was one of my favorite reviews to record for the year. So coming in at my number 3 is Jennifer. Coming in at my number 2 is a movie that upon rewatch I was surprised with how much it actually grew on me. Here I have Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. This was a movie that the first time I saw it, I thought it was fine. Like, I didn't think it was a bad movie or anything. I just was like, yeah, no, that's okay. Maybe it's because I didn't grow up reading the books or something. I don't know. There was just a little bit of disconnect. But it was a movie that sort of sat in the back of my mind where I was like, yeah, I really want to give that a rewatch. And so happy that I did. Obviously, I gave it a review as well. I don't know what didn't click the first time, but I had a blast with rewatching this movie. Like, it was just so much fun. There was some creepy elements. I mean, that fucking scene, spoiler alert, but the kid turning into the scarecrow, that was actually fucking genuinely creepy. Some really cool practical monster and ghost designs as well. There's a little bit of a bad CGI monster towards the end, but I had a blast with this movie. As I said, it just sort of caught me off guard with how much I enjoyed it, upon rewatch. I was like, yeah, I'm happy to sit through a movie that, I thought was okay, maybe it'll move up a little bit, but it really shot up a lot. So definitely earned a spot on this list of my top 10s. So coming in at my number 2 is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And my number 1, maybe no surprise to some people who, keep on my channel pretty frequently and, have heard me talk about this movie a fair bit, but my number 1 is Pearl. This is a movie that came in at my number 10 spot for favourite movies of 2022. And the first time I saw the movie, it was on this little laptop screen. The movie didn't come out in cinemas here in Australia, so I wanted to check it out before the year was over. And I think, honestly, that was the reason why I had it sort of low. And I saw it really late in the year as well, so, I was just sort of rushing to watch it. But I really did like it the first time around, but upon rewatch for my review, fucking, like, blows my mind. I'm almost lost for words now. This movie is just so fucking good. Like, people that say, like, this movie was boring or anything, like, Mia Goth's performance alone as Pearl is just fucking hypnotic. Even that scene where she just talks to the camera for 6 minutes straight, I think that's how long it takes, just fucking floors me every time. Like, my eyes are like fucking dinner plates watching that scene. It's fucking awesome. But I love Pearl. Loved revisiting this movie. Loved doing my review of it. I just fucking love this movie, and I can't wait for Maxine coming out in this year. So, my number 1 is Pearl. So there we go, guys, through my list of my 10 favourite horror movies that I reviewed for my random horror review series in 2023. Just quickly before I do my recap of the list, just to remind you guys, if you want to hear deeper details of my thoughts of any of these movies, I've done full-length reviews of them, so go check them out. And also, I have a pretty stacked January planned for content. I'm doing a recap of the year of 2023, putting together lists of my favourite horror movies of the year, a lot of music stuff as well, my favourite albums and songs, and mostly horror stuff as well, because this is a predominantly horror channel, but I wanted to let you guys know, so stick around on this channel through January for that sort of stuff. But yeah, let's get into this recap. So my number 10 was House, underrated 80s film. And my number 9, Relic, a more underrated modern film. Number 8, Mad God. Number 7, Cabin Fever. Always had a blast with that movie. Number 6, Smile. Fun, creepy movie. Number 5, Bones and All. Number 4, The Black Phone. My number 3 was Dario Argento's episode in The Masters of Horror, Jennifer. That one there on the back, if you find a singular copy of it and you want to know what the cover looks like. My number 2, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Out of all the movies on my list, this is the one that probably grew on me the most. And my number 1, Pearl. So there we go, guys. Just a quick little recap there. Thank you for joining me for this video. If you have any thoughts that you want to share on any of these movies or some other movies that you hope that I review in 2024, let me know in the comments, guys. And I'll see you for another video soon. Peace.